Hey everyone, this is Car RayRob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob.
Welcome to our newest episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend.
Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. My old friend. That's right, everyone. We are back with a brand new episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend. But before we get started, Ray, why don't you tell everybody what it is we do here?
With Hello Movies, My Old Friend, we are taking a movie that we remember fondly, adoring from our childhood that we have not seen in a very long time. And we want to see if this movie still holds up, if it's actually any good.
That's right. And we call that our
I don't know what we call it.
I don't know what we
Let's
call
call
that.
it something.
Let's call it something. Exactly. We have that for Say Hello to My Little Film. We should figure out what that is. I was trying to see if it came naturally. It didn't. It did not. But Ray is right. We revisit these old classics to see if we love them as much as we remember. And we have not always had the best track record.
No, our memory falters.
Yeah.
A lot. We've led to some disappointment for sure.
Absolutely. But we're hopeful that this one will not be that.
No.
And I think we have a good chance that it won't, because this is a pretty widely held good movie.
Other people say so.
Other people say this is a good movie.
But will we say so?
Exactly. That's what we have to find out. And
and sometimes we also figure out, like, why did we like it as a kid? Like,
right.
You know, that's also kind of the fun part. Like, sometimes we're like, these themes were too big for us. Why did we like this?
100%. That is absolutely true. And I think there could be a little bit of that in this, but we'll see, because this isn't a very adult movie. And that is because we are revisiting the 1993 Clint Eastwood classic, A Perfect World.
If there's one thing, when you were a kid, you were going to like movies about kids getting kidnapped.
Right. I mean, I guess that's true. But, Clint Eastwood obviously is a pretty iconic director, and especially for when, as we were kind of aging through our kind of filmography, if you will, and learning to really love film, things like $1 Million Baby and stuff like that.
Spaghetti Western.
Right, and we just saw him in the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. So it's, obviously Clint Eastwood is a staple in many ways of film history.
Sure.
So it's not surprising that this is widely held as a good movie. But, why we liked it, well, we're going to have to to see. Yeah, exactly. But it stars Kevin Costner, so that's another check.
I do remember that.
And I do enjoy Kevin Costner. And it is about an escaped convict who takes a young boy hostage and attempts to escape on the road in Texas, on the run from a Texas Ranger that is played by Clint Eastwood himself, and a criminologist played by Laura Dern, which
love Laura Dern being back.
Laura Dern, exactly. But I'm not gonna lie, there's some visuals about this movie that I remember, but otherwise I don't remember the ins and outs.
Yeah, I remember a Casper mask.
That is the thing I remember the most.
Yeah.
100%.
And the kid being in his underwear a lot.
I remember that too. and I know,
Yeah.
we're kind of like, get this kid some pants.
Yeah.
I totally do. Yeah, I remember that. And I mean, there's stuff that you can I feel like I remember, but I also don't know if it's just like my memory of, in like modern context. Like I remember the Clint Eastwood character being very gruff, but I'm like, when is Clint Eastwood not gruff?
Sure. Can he play loving and endearing? I don't know.
Right. And like Kevin Costner being kind of like a charismatic bad guy.
Yeah. I kind of remember them having like a good relationship though. Like if you're going to get kidnapped by somebody, he'd be the guy to do it.
Right.
That's kind of how I remember it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And those kinds of things. But other than that, there's a lot of the details of this movie that I'm really fuzzy on, but I'm very excited to see if it still holds up.
Yeah. This is, like I said, we always do like to kind of think about what did we like about this movie when we were a kid, because I could tell you, like, one of the movies I remember being scared to death of was, like, remember Jack the Bear?
Yeah, with Danny DeVito.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that movie's like a kid getting kidnapped. I remember that movie just scaring the heck out of me. So I don't remember what is tonally about this movie that I found
that could totally work for this show.
It's true.
I'm just saying. I'm throwing that out there. Side quest.
But so I'm wondering, like, why did I like this movie? Because I remember like liking to watch this movie. I just don't remember exactly what it was about.
Yeah, and I have a feeling, obviously, and this is again just kind of looking through the past through the modern lens, modern memory, whatever of just Clint Eastwood's style, I'm sure was very
Yeah.
was kind of very prevalent in this movie. His style of filmmaking. So like but to be fair, on the flip of that, it's like his movie style is a bit dry sometimes. So it's
For
like, why would
sure.
a kid like this movie?
Right.
So I may that's going to be an interesting element of this as well. Kind of like we were talking about earlier. Like, why would a kid like A Perfect World?
Yeah. And we were like 10-ish, 10, 11, 12.
93. Yeah, we were
Yeah.
10.
So,
We were 10.
I mean, budding men by that time almost.
We
But
were practically adults.
yeah. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I'm excited to go back and check this out.
Absolutely. And that is what we're going to do right now. If you have not seen A Perfect World in a long time, we suggest go ahead and revisit this movie as well, like that, like Ray and I are going to do. And we are then going to come back and find out if this movie still holds up.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. You may be also watching the film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching the film. They'll be right back when they're done watching the film.
All right, everybody, we are back. Rob and I are back from watching A Perfect World.
Are we in a perfect world, though?
We are not.
No, we are not.
But
We
they
are
weren't.
not.
They weren't
were not
either.
either. They
So,
were not either. To be fair,
a lot of movie here. This movie was longer than I remember, but I don't think
Yeah.
that's a bad thing.
no, but it feels very Clint Eastwood in that way. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
think that's pretty par for the course for him.
Take your time.
Yeah. He learned that from Sergio Leone, but he doesn't necessarily have the same stylistic qualities, but he definitely takes his time in the narrative.
Yeah. And he's earned that right. So
Yeah.
I think this would be an interesting movie to talk about. I think some really strong characters pop up on screen.
Yeah,
Screen.
Absolutely. But we talked a little bit, with this show, it's kind of the central theme is, like, what do you remember, what do you not?
Yeah.
And I have to say, I mean, it is amazing to me how much of like a searing image that Casper mask is.
Yeah.
And it shows why, like, because it is used so effectively in this movie. I think that's why it connected with my brain the way that it did.
Yeah, it sticks out. It's an important, yeah, like I said, it's an important piece. It's kind of what gets them caught at one point
Yeah.
and stuff, and it kind of launches them into, and it kind of really it plays an important part for Philip's little character
Absolutely.
too. So
There's some thematic stuff in there, being a ghost, being,
Yeah.
kind of like
or the good
like
ghost
and
too.
a good ghost, exactly. Kind of like feeling kind of out of his world a little bit, and we'll talk about this more about
Yeah.
how he fits in his family dynamic and things like that. But and being at that age, it's a hard age. You're kind of discovering the world and how you fit in it. So I think that the ghost element of it is kind of an interesting thematic layer in this movie.
Yeah, I think some other interesting layers too is like I think Kevin Costner is great in this.
Yeah, the charisma was real.
Yeah.
That was an accurate
Yeah.
memory that I had.
Yeah, and then I think it's kind of interesting, like Clint Eastwood's character. I think we can talk about it more, but like his relationship with Laura Dern, I thought was interesting.
Sure.
As opposed to like I don't know if it like really reflects at all the relationship with Kevin Costner and the kid Philip, but those opposing storylines.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like a B storyline, which I
Yeah.
mean it should. Again, I feel like the main storyline should be Kevin Costner and Philip, and
Yeah.
kind of their journey, and then even the pursuit of them, I think lies outside of Laura Dern and Clint Eastwood's character's relationship. But I don't necessarily think it's lesser in a negative way. It's just I think it layers into the narrative where it's supposed to, as far as levels of importance. I
Yeah.
would say.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I'll try to maybe think about as we kind of have this conversation, because I will say I think like do I think the Red and Sally stuff really helps the movie, or
Mhm.
like is it saying something that's on point with like the themes of Kevin Costner and Philip's storyline? I'm not 100% sure.
Well, the interesting thing, it almost in some ways feels like, and this is actually something I think overall with the movie that I find interesting is, so from the beginning they work very hard to make you like Butch from the
Yeah.
beginning and dislike Red. And the way that they do that with Red is that interaction with Sally.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
I
He's
get where you're
dismissive.
coming from. Like, it almost feels just like a plot device
Yeah.
more than an actual, like, you know, weakness and need character development situation. I definitely understand where you're coming from there. But, you know, I another element that I think is interesting about it is, you know, they play it off very much that it's misogyny.
Yeah.
You know, you as a viewer would, that's what you would think of firsthand, is that this is misogyny. But the other kind of, you know, element to that as well is the fact that criminal, you know, profiling was such a new thing there that I'm sure those old time law enforcement guys just dismiss that, you know, just at the jump, you know.
Right. It's kind of funny because, like, profiling, it's not stereotyping. It's better than that.
Right.
It's way better.
Right. Psychology. You know? Not like Clint Eastwood was against stereotyping.
Exactly. Like, his character. Yeah, I know. So that's why, you know, that's what I think is funny. But you know, so I do think there's some aspect of that. Like, was he dismissive toward Laura Dern's character because of that?
Yeah.
Or was it because she was woman challenging them? Maybe a little bit muddled. I do think, and purposely so, but I do think Red's character's, like, I don't know if there's a little bit more there than maybe meets the eye. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because, like, one line that I thought was kind of striking, and it could be even a throwaway line, but, like, he's like, you know, I hope they cross the border and we don't have to chase after him anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was like, so are you into this whole cop thing or not? Like, is this all hassle or what?
Well, I think part of it too is just, you know, at that point it is no longer his, you know, because he said at one point when he was talking about, like, the mayor, or not the mayor, the governor. The governor's very, like, you know, we got to do this, this, and he even was, I can't remember who he said the lines to, but you know, was talking about how, you know, well, you know, it's easy for the governor to say that, you know, this guy doesn't get caught, he just, you know, moves on to the next thing. This guy doesn't get caught, you know, I get, you know, go down for it, essentially. And so I think that that's also probably,
or if he hurts somebody else,
right, everything, right, it goes on him. So I think that could have been part of it as well, is like this idea of, well, then it becomes somebody else's problem and the buck, you know, gets passed somewhere else. So that's probably where that was coming from. But, you know, he's very cynical in many ways throughout the movie. You know what I mean? Like, it's built on these kind of, like, little joke one-liners that he has and these quippy responses to everything. And so, you know, I think it just plays into that character, you know?
Yeah, I think that was definitely the stuff I don't really remember.
Oh yeah,
I did not remember the Red Sally stuff as much, and
I didn't either.
That would definitely be stuff when I was a kid that I was like, yeah, I'm not into this.
Sure,
probably.
Or just didn't understand it per se, you know.
And that's probably why I wasn't into it, because it's like, I don't get profiling. You know what I mean? When I was a 10-year-old kid, but the stuff that I definitely do remember or felt like I at least tonally kind of remembered was the Philip Kevin Costner stuff, and I thought that was great.
Yeah.
So I definitely would like to touch on that. First of all, I think Kevin Costner is great in this. Like, I definitely feel like Kevin Costner is acting for one. Like, you know, like, he's not just being himself in this movie. Like, I feel like he is putting this Butch as a character.
Yeah.
There's like nuance to him and stuff that I think. Now, maybe I don't always give Kevin Costner enough credit for as an actor, because I always enjoy what he's in.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
I think he's great. But you know, sometimes it feels like he's just like
playing
be just
himself.
Kevin Costner.
Yeah, I know.
But this didn't feel like that to me.
Yeah, I think that can be fair. I think part of the thing with Kevin Costner is he is such a naturally kind of charismatic guy.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and that's what that's the mark of a good actor. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of these guys are successful, is because there's just something. It's ephemeral. You can't even necessarily put your finger on it. And I think with Kevin Costner, that's really true. And you think about his other performances, you know, whether you're talking about, like, The Bodyguard or, you know, even Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which, you know, is obviously kind of, you know, one of those movies in his filmography that is kind of ridiculed at times, but even like funner stuff like Bull Durham or 10 Cup. You know what I mean? Like, there's those
Dances with Wolves.
Dances with Wolves, sure. Even though that is obviously, I could probably argue that might be also another one where he's more acting than anything else. But beyond that, I do think that he kind of has that natural charisma, and it does come out in this character quite a bit.
You have to, because you're kidnapping a kid early on.
Absolutely, and like I said, that's what they use.
And you're rooting for him,
right? Exactly. It's kind of the Hitchcock thing. Like, this is the central character. This is who you're going to root for, even if it's a bad guy. And I do think that is obviously part of the narrative of this movie. Is like, is Butch a bad guy? Right. I mean, Philip flat out asks him at one point if he's a bad guy. You know, and I think
I love his answer.
Right.
I'm not the worst.
I'm not the worst. Right. Exactly. So, and I think each interaction that they kind of go through, it kind of shows both sides. The angel and the devil, if you will.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that that's kind of what keeps you rooting for him throughout the movie is like you kind of want the angel to win out.
Sure.
In
You're
the
hoping
end.
he can be the good guy. That
Right.
We
But
see.
it obviously But then it ends in that scene with the family, and I think there's a lot of layers to why it, the devil in him ultimately wins out, and but you're obviously constantly rooting for him.
Yeah, because when you think about like, all right, what would I've been drawn to when I was a kid with this movie, and I do think it's that relationship with Kevin Costner and Philip, because it is an endearing relationship, and the thing that I don't know if I remember it exactly, but like I really enjoyed how empowering he is to Philip.
Sure.
And the subtlety here is that like it builds upon like you're slowly building out like what Kevin Costner's character Butch's childhood was like,
right?
Because you can tell like everything he's doing is probably things that he did not have the opportunity to.
Yeah.
Like he is constantly giving Philip choices,
yeah.
right? Like this is your decision. You can either be a part of this or you're not. Where to the point where you almost feel like when he was a kid, he was just forced into so much stuff that he didn't have a say in how his life went.
Well, absolutely, and it's you're right. Like it's almost a situation where, as I said, they work so hard to make you like Clint Eastwood, make you dislike Clint Eastwood, make you like Kevin Costner, but almost like make you like understand why Philip wants to be kidnapped.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like that's also
not the
kind
worst.
of right.
Yeah.
It's not the worst, but you get my point. Like it's like the fact you can't celebrate Halloween. That whole opening sequence. Where like the kids come to the door or whatever, and it's like
they're Jehovah's Witnesses,
right? Because they're Jehovah's Witnesses and all this stuff, and it at least makes you more empathetic to like what Kevin Costner sees as Philip's need, and like Philip like not feeling entirely bought into the life that he is currently leading.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's a really cute scene when he gets Butch is asking Philip, what are all the things you can't do?
Right.
And like going to an amusement park or riding a roller coaster was one, and the next thing you know, he's strapped onto the hood of the car.
Right.
I was like,
Teen Wolf style, baby. Yeah.
Go faster. But I'm like, no, this is not safe.
Right. And then I guess that's always the thing. Obviously now we're men in our 40s. We have these natural instincts that are in us now. But you think about a movie when you're a kid, and you're like, yeah, man, this is.
I wish I was on a car.
I saw something recently that's like that, where it's like a list of things in movies from when you were a kid that like it's how you're old. And I like one of them that stuck out, and you'll obviously appreciate this, is like when you watch Mrs. Doubtfire and you side with Sally Field about over the birthday party in the beginning. You're like, man, why would you do this? This is crazy. Like that's how you're old.
You were never going to clean this mess up in time.
Right, exactly. But I can see this being the same thing. Like if you're okay with Kevin Costner strapping a kid to the roof of his car and driving, then you're if you're not okay with that, you're officially old.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I'm old then, because I was like,
oh, Butch, man.
Yeah, that is so dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
Rufio, Rufio. Oh,
that is so
dangerous.
Yeah, but one thing I was asking too, when you think about Butch too, in this character, as again we slowly kind of build up, and it's subtlety. They're never going to explain this to you fully, but it's like after the scene when they were buying clothes, because there's a lot. We did mention that Philip's in his skivvies a lot.
For that first good 45 minutes of the movie, he is walking around in his underwear.
Yeah, and I did not remember him showing his pecker as much as he did.
Oh my God! Like you really wanted to tell his mom, you're like, okay, maybe a little less, like worrying about Halloween, a little more telling Philip, don't show your junk to random men in cars.
She told him like, don't take candy from strangers. She never said don't whip your penis out.
Right, like
when
that,
asked.
Yeah, it's a bit, they're priorities. I'm just gonna say it, priorities.
Yeah, but I mean, I think the scene when Kevin Costner takes a peek at Philip's pecker and tells him that it looks good, I'm like, that's done as well as you can for the context.
Heck, it's a good size for your boy your age. Like, oh God,
he was giving him confidence. You know what I mean? That's because Terry insulted him. So there's only one way I can build up this boy's confidence. That's to look at his pecker and tell him it looks good.
Beep, 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 beep. Public service announcement to all, anybody listening to this: if you are under the age of 18, do not show your junk to anybody, an adult in a car.
And if you're over the age of 18, do not ask anybody to show you their junk.
Exactly. The more you know, and knowing is half the battle.
But anyway, so past that, once he actually decides to buy Philip clothes, and this is before Philip steals the Casper, costume. I was really asking myself, like, why is he hanging on to Philip at this point? Still,
right.
There's something that he's got to be getting out of this relationship too.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was almost equally as interesting.
Yeah. I have to say, like, I think that they do a really good job, obviously, like you said, of kind of selling the relationship, of Philip and Butch, through this whole movie. And obviously, and it's because, again, when you get to that final scene, like, and Philip doesn't want to leave him. In fact, like, runs back into the field, and gives you that kind of, like, sense of danger, obviously, of what's, getting ready to happen, because you can kind of see the writing on the wall, and you hope it's not, but you obviously can realize what's going to happen. But really sell that emotional moment of when Butch dies, and the emotional beat of Philip in that moment.
Yeah.
And you feel it, and I remember feeling it. It kind of, that was one of those memories that maybe came back to me a little bit more from watching it when I was a kid. But I think that's still such an effective moment in this movie, is selling Butch's death, and right in front of Philip too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's not like a situation like, oh, they get Philip away and then he gets shot.
Right.
Like, it happens right in front of him, right next to him. And I think that it's such an impactful scene because of all that work that they had done up to that point.
Yeah, I couldn't help but think, man, Philip's gonna be traumatized from this one for
Totally.
sure. Like, this will be therapy. But I will say one thing I oddly just did not like about the movie, and this is a little bit sidetracking. It's like, I hate that the movie opened up with Kevin Costner like laying in the grass, looking content, and then you like circle back, and then like that's him dying. So like, I don't like that.
No, I was actually okay. That's actually glad
like
you
that.
put that out. Like, I it's interesting because like, even though I kind of like I said, I didn't remember it until he got shot, that he did get shot.
Yeah,
but. And I guess maybe because of that scene felt kind of effective to me, because you're like, oh, maybe he doesn't die. But then, like,
I guess you would only get that from a rewatch, though. I guess,
right.
Because,
and that's the thing. Yeah. So even though this is technically a rewatch, I do feel like there, at least in some ways, there were some of those original surprises again, because it had been so long.
But anyway, let's go back to that Philip relationship with Kevin Costner, because I think some of the interesting things that Philip kind of gets to experience is, like, obviously we talked about riding on top of the car, like this was his roller coaster ride. But when he does steal that Casper costume, because what does Kevin Costner tell him? It's not stealing, it's long-term borrowing or something.
Yeah, it's a loan. It's his loaner. Yeah. You take a loaner if you don't have the money and you need it. It's okay to take a loaner every now and again.
But I just love, like, Philip is this very innocent, has not been exposed to a lot of stuff in his life kid. And he sees this costume that he wants, and he's not even allowed to celebrate Halloween.
Right.
And he's kind of got this permission to be bad.
Yeah.
He's with a bad guy. So steal it.
Well, and it's funny, too,
because he steals horribly. It's like he's tucking under his shirt. It's a big old box.
He's a box under his shirt. Yeah, no, but there's a great line in that, too, because she asks, the clerk asks him, like, what'd you go as for Halloween this year, whatever? And he said, a bandit.
Yeah.
So I think, like, that's such, like, a great incisive line in this movie that kind of, like, it's so simple, but it explains so much of what his mindset is in that moment. There's a few of those in this movie that I think are really effective because of that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because really the child actor who plays Philip doesn't do a lot.
That's true.
He's very kind of mute, meek in the corner. Like, this is not a movie where, like, the child actor is going to, like, launch a career because of this role.
This wasn't Dakota Fanning in Man on Fire.
No, no, nothing like that. So it's like, but when he does do stuff, it's like really effective. It's like when Silent Bob talks, kind of thing.
Right. That's fair. That's funny to put it that way.
But yeah, so so he gets exposed to, like, the roller coaster, the stealing. He gets exposed to love when he sees Kevin Costner kissing a girl's butt.
Right. Which, okay, funny thing. I don't know if you.
Tin Cup.
She might be in Tin Cup, but she is a repeat. She is a repeat for Hello Movies, My Old Friend. Do you know what? Do you know where from?
let's see. Yeah.
Her name is Elizabeth Ruscio.
Oh, I know she is as an actress
Okay.
because of Tin Cup, but I don't remember. I don't remember what we've seen her in. I can't place it right.
I forgot she was in Tin Cup, so you reminded me of that. But that is not what she is. A two-timer here on Hello Movies of My Old Friend because she also plays Frankie in Burglar.
Burglar. That's
she
right.
is in Burglar.
Yep.
She is the Frankie character in Burglar. So I was like, I knew her voice. That's what really got me. Like when I, even more so than like the visual of looking at her, her voice just hit me, and I was like, oh my god, that's Frankie from Burglar. So yeah.
Yeah, no, so I know she's back with Kevin Costner in Tin Cup in a couple of years after this movie, and and she kind of plays the same type of character,
right?
But yeah, so that was interesting. But I love that line when Philip's like, do you love her?
Right.
He's like, well, I kissed her butt, didn't I?
Her butt, didn't I? Well, and that's how Butch works. Like he always is like when he has these moments, like not even that one's necessarily a bad moment, like a bad guy moment or anything, but he always has the line that kind of draws you back in.
Yeah.
And it's because they do so much work too with his character. There's so much underlying.
Right.
You know, and I think that's such a great part of his character is kind of explaining his journey.
And that's where I was, like when I say, like, man, was the Red and Sally stuff really worth it for me? Because there's a lot of screen time. Like, because this is a long movie. Like, you could trim some of the fat, I feel like, and maybe even show more of Butch's, like, temper throughout the movie, other than, like, that last scene. But what you do get from Red and Sally is you do learn about Butch's
childhood. Which is probably one of the most important parts of it.
That if you're going to say that what purpose do they really serve, that would be it.
Yeah.
They're the exposition for his life.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And we'll circle back to Red and Sally because I have some stuff to say about that too. But as you're right, as it goes back to Butch, you're right. It's very effective because you find out about his backstory and how he was brought up in like his mom was a prostitute and all that stuff, and he lived in the house with her and all that stuff, and how he killed a man at a young age because he was trying to hurt his mom and all this stuff. And so you really understand, like, this kid didn't necessarily have a chance.
Right.
And you can also kind of then get that glimpse into the idea of, like, why, like, it's like clockwork in a scene. So, this, like, the scene where they hitch a ride with the family in the station wagon.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this idyllic family. It seems great. Like,
they're getting
Butch
along.
Butch seems like he's fine with them. Like, they're all singing. It's all great. And then all of a sudden, one of the girls, like, spills something in the back seat, and the mom goes off and, like, gets kind of physical with her. And you can see in that moment, like, a switch just flips with Butch, and he becomes like the bad guy Butch. It's like when the angel finally loses out and the devil takes over. And I think that's kind of what happens in that that's what happens in that final scene as well with the farmer's family, where the dad or the grandpa,
I think it was his dad,
like hits the little boy, and then at that moment it's over, it's done. And you understand why. Like, obviously you as a viewer, you don't want to see that either. So you side with Butch naturally because you don't want to see that. But obviously Butch takes it so far.
Yeah.
Which is again, that devil on his shoulder.
Yeah, and that's the scene where he just can't pull back, even though Philip is begging him to stop and stuff.
Yeah.
He can't pull back because he just, and you can obviously tell that there's abuse in Butch's life. There must be, you know what I mean? Like bad abuse, where this is like just this is just something he just can't overcome in this moment. He can't turn it off. He's seeing red and he can't stop. I really like when he gives Philip the choice here. He's like, you can leave or you can watch. Like, you can watch me murder these people if you want. Like, talk about being like devoted to giving people choice. Like that should be definitely, hey, I'm going to murder these people. Can you go leave? Like he's like, you can watch if you want. Like
But it's funny because that leads to a moment that very much ties into Butch's childhood, because Butch was around Philip's age when he killed that man because that guy was abusive and couldn't stop hurting his mom. Philip ends up shooting Butch because Butch can't stop hurting this family.
Right.
So, in that moment, the reaction to being shot is so good. It's not anger. It's almost like it snapped him out of it.
Yeah.
And almost like understanding of why he has to die in this moment, because it's like, I can't stop this. And like I said, we'll kind of get more into maybe some of the reasons why with the Red character, but it's so effective in these final scenes where it's almost, I don't want to say it's like a a Frankenstein, like, that doesn't really make sense. But you know what I mean? Just that realization,
Yeah.
of what he's created within himself or allowed to become, and knows that he really is irredeemable in his mind.
This is, I think, too, like, definitely iconic in my brain with, like, the Philip and Butch under the tree
Yeah.
as he's, like, kind of like dying or going away. And I feel like Butch is so bad in that scene with the farmer's family. Like, he's tying them up. He's just embarrassing them, and he's scaring the living bejesus out of them. But everything he does, well, like you said, once he's shot, it's so redeeming again. And he's like, it's back to the guy, the catchy.
Right. You don't want him to die again.
Yeah.
Like, don't die.
Yeah, you're like,
don't die.
You can figure this out. But he's like, he's going after Philip, and like you said, he's not mad. He's almost like feels bad that he made him shoot him. You know what I mean? And
it was pride. He's like, good job, Philip.
Yeah, he's like, hey, what'd you do with the gun? He's like, I threw it down the well. He's like, that's smart.
That was
what
smart.
I mean? And,
Yeah.
I really found too, like, the line was like, I wasn't gonna kill him. I only killed 2 people in my whole life, and
exactly.
one of them was Terry, the really bad guy at the beginning of the movie, and then the other one was from when he was a kid.
Yeah.
So like both justifiable, killings in a way. You know, I think you could say.
Absolutely, and then they do so much in that scene because they also contextualize the postcard, and they come up with the list of or not the list of demand, but like when they fly Philip's mom in, and then like you said, Butch, it reads off like, you need to do this and promise to take him to the fair and have roller coaster cotton candy,
make her promise,
make her promise, like all these things, like it's all of like this culmination of their relationship and like kind of what they're trying to force to happen, and again create a perfect world. Create this perfect world where like Philip comes from a family where he can't do these things that he wants to do, but they're trying to create it. And I think that's kind of what's such an interesting element of both of these characters is they're trying to create this perfect world for themselves. So they go Philip and Butch.
I like that line where when he was giving out those demands, he's like, do it or I'll shoot the kid in the head. And then Philip kind of gives him the look. He's like, don't look at me like that. I don't even have the gun.
Right, yeah.
Because he's like, I'm not going to hurt you. It's just a big tail. And they do know that about, like, Philip doesn't think that he would ever hurt him, I don't think. You know what I mean? And he didn't stop him from, he didn't shoot him because he was going to hurt him. He stopped him from hurting other people.
Right. Exactly. Well, he's the friendliest ghost he knows.
Yeah.
So
friendliest ghost, that'll ever kill you.
Yeah. But they do such a great job of like selling that friendship of the two, and like I think that is by far the most effective thing of this movie. Now let's circle back to the thing that you said was maybe not have been effective, and that is Red and Sally. I don't necessarily disagree with where you're coming from. The only reason I would disagree with that is because Laura Dern is a goddess.
Yeah,
like
she's great.
Living on Earth, a goddess.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, every time Laura Dern is on screen in anything, I melt because she is phenomenal, and this movie is no different. But we talked about how it was like this, it's unclear whether it was a misogyny thing or a profile or skepticism thing that kind of drove pseudoscience thing that kind of drove this wedge between them. And
at the time, it's not pseudoscience now. Yeah,
right at the time. But like it's an interesting thing where it doesn't necessarily last that long between the two of them. Like basically, once you get to the scene where she, like you were saying earlier, profiles Butch and like on character,
Butch,
like in character almost. I think by that scene, you even see it on his face where it just kind of like goes away.
Yeah, because he's asking her questions. He's asking Butch questions, but he's asking her questions as though she is Butch.
Right.
Thinking that she's going to give the right answer kind of thing. Not just like playing along.
Yeah. So I think, once you kind of get to that scene, it's like, first off, she's great in it. Like, oh my God, is she great in it? But like, it is kind of the linchpin scene, and pretty much everything after that with their characters, they seem more or less on the same page. Yeah. So I get where you're coming from, where it could very much feel like a device in the beginning, like I said, to make it so that you didn't like Red at the beginning, but you like Butch, so you know who you're rooting for and who you're not rooting for. But the funny thing about it is because of that, Red almost has the arc of the movie and not Butch, because Butch, I guess he kind of does, but like it's more like he can't overcome it in the end. It's a tragic ending for him. But for Red, he by the end he does seem like a different person than the beginning of the movie.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So that's kind of an interesting element where almost the B storyline is where the character development truly happens.
Yeah, Bobby Lee takes over the bad guy role.
Right.
The FBI agents.
Well, yeah, which we'll talk. Yeah, that's an interesting thing because first off, Bradley Whitford is fantastic. plays the annoying, like pompous side character so well. He's, I think, one of the most underrated character actors.
Sure, I love him.
I think
I'm
he's
a big
great.
West Wing fan,
And
so
I
I love.
wasn't. That was one thing. I never
love
really
Bradley
watched West
Whitford
Wing.
there.
Yeah, but I think he's great in everything he's in. But I think one of the very most interesting elements about that character is that he is Chekhov's gun in this movie.
Right,
Like, because he's forget he's there. Like, half the time he's just sitting or, like, you know, laid out on that couch in the trailer or whatever, and you forget that he's there. And he is literally the gun that kills Butch in the end.
Yeah.
So he is Chekhov's gun in this movie, which I find so fascinating.
Yeah, and then again, that was heartbreaking because I think Butch says a comment like, "Well, at least you killed me, not some stranger." And then at the end of the day, stranger does kill him.
Right.
You know what I mean? But it is like that does make it rewarding when Clint Eastwood's character goes back and like knocks him out.
Yes.
You're like, all right, I'm glad you did that, Clint. You
Yeah.
know, so like, maybe it was worth it. But yeah, like I said, there's some purpose there and stuff. I just felt you maybe could have trimmed up, like when the trailer's going off the rails and it's crashing.
It's a fun
and it's
visual.
like,
I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree that it needed to be trimmed. I think it's perfectly fine, and I think, you know, as a B storyline, I think it works, you know, perfectly well, and it serves the A storyline enough where I don't necessarily agree that it needs to be trimmed. But I can understand where you're coming from. I'll put it that way.
Because like I said, I think the things that I would have liked to see more is maybe seen Butch's real temper more, so that final scene, like maybe it felt like you were going to feel a change.
Yeah.
But really, we were watching it for the first time, so you're kind of like, what's going on? Like, why is he is snapped? Like, what's going to happen? And then maybe too, like I said, the kid actor wasn't like, Philip didn't have a ton in the movie to do. Like maybe if he had gotten some stuff to enhance his character a little more, I would like that. But it's fine. Like I said, we'll talk about it. I
was going to say my thing with that though. I'm going to in defense of Philip. In defense of Philip, I'm going to tell you right now, and I could bet $100 on this. The reason why Philip's character is the way he is because Clint Eastwood does not have a single clue how to direct a child. Like, I'm going to say that right out loud.
There's a generational gap.
I do not believe Clint Eastwood has the ability to direct children. So my guess is he did not. That's why Philip's character is like kind of the way he is in this movie is Clint Eastwood does not know how to direct children. But
give him a gun, he'll shoot a bad guy.
Right. And I mean, let's be honest, you know, like the performances in this movie are great, but you know, many of them are because of who's in the part. You know, Kevin Costner great, Laura Dern great. Clint Eastwood is great because, I mean, let's be honest, has he been any other character but just an older, maybe slightly gruffer, you know, version of Blondie for the last 50 years?
No.
Like in every movie he's in, he's basically just Blondie.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, you know, it is what it is. You kind of accept it at this point or don't. Right, exactly.
Yeah, Rob, so I think, I don't know, maybe we're at the point we could kind of think about wrapping this up and kind of answer those questions that we like to pose with this show, Hello Movies, is why did we like this as a kid? Were you able to learn that? And did it hold up? Do you still like it to this day?
Yeah, I as we said, you know, with a movie like this especially, like there are certain movies that we've watched, it's like, okay, I get why I would have liked this as a kid, you know, just from the concept. You know, I think of something like Big Man on Campus.
Yeah.
You know, it's a funny movie, it's a comedy, you know, you kind of get on board with that. But then, you know, we even talked about something like Burglar, where it's like there was stuff in that movie that we didn't understand, like, at all. And we didn't, you know, understand until we rewatched it for this show. You know, and this movie could fall into that category in some ways as well, because it was geared towards adults. You know what I mean? Like it's a very much a geared toward adult movie.
But we had taste back then,
right? But we did. I mean, fair enough. I mean, I can agree with that. Not to toot our own horns or anything, but But yeah, I think, you know, the central storyline though of a kid, you know, kind of like, you know, being free of this, you know, world where he may be, you as a kid looking at that, like, you can't go trick or treating. Like, what the hell's wrong with that? You know what I mean? Right. I think that kind of stuff you do connect with as a child. And so I can understand, you know, in those elements why we would have enjoyed this movie at that age, because of, you know, the connecting to the kid character.
Yeah, I think so. It's like, you know, yes, he's being kidnapped, but it is a joyride in a lot of sense.
It is.
You know what I mean? And the relationship is so endearing. Like you would definitely have picked up on this, and I'm sure we did when we were kids. It's like Kevin Costner is no danger to Philip. He's really a hostage of convenience, just because it helped get him out of, you know, the situation where the neighbor had a gun on him. Really, he wasn't kidnapping him to like hold the ransom and he's going to kill him if he doesn't get it. You know, it was not that kind of situation. So,
Right.
So very quickly it turned into a very endearing relationship, and he was
Absolutely.
teaching him lessons, and he was supporting him, and he was providing things in his life that he didn't have. And so, yeah, of course, as a kid, you're like, this is cool. I actually, respect that.
Yeah.
Did the movie hold up though? So as we circle back to it, did you like it?
So I think it's very clear. Yes, this movie for me definitely held up, and I would say I probably appreciated it more now.
Yeah.
Which I think probably went without saying, and it's completely understandable why. There are just elements of this movie that you connect with when we were kids, and then there are ones that you didn't because you didn't necessarily understand, but now you do, and you're more cognizant of it, and you can contextualize those things a lot more. I think the Butch character is just so well written, and you root for him. There's so many great moments. One thing I didn't mention that I think is such an effective scene is when I mentioned the scene where they hitch a ride with the family or whatever, and I remember he talks about the dad. He's like, oh, he's a good family man, or something like that. He's like, Bob. I wrote it down here. It's like if Bob's a fine family man, it's about the best thing a fella could hope to be.
Right.
But he still steals their car. And in my mind, I'm like, if that physicality hadn't happened against the child, would he have stolen the car?
Sure. Yeah.
I think there's a couple of moments in this movie where you kind of do that. And I think it's such an effective character, and you really can attach to it and root for him, even being the quote unquote bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
That, I think this movie really holds up, and I think it earned the acclaim it had at the time.
Yeah,
I
agree. I agree. I 100% agree. I thought this would be held up. I think this could be potentially be in the running for
definitely
for like
best
Hello movie of the year for us.
Absolutely,
holds up the most because it is just a really strong movie, and like you said, I think Butch's character is really just well portrayed on screen.
Yeah,
he's got a ton of layers, as like we said, and they don't spell it out for you. Like there is some gray in there that you can invent in your own mind about like what his childhood was like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is smart, but not where you're confused about what he would have experienced. Like, exactly what he experienced. You're just not sure exactly how it went about. And because of that, he is like this advocate for young adults now. You know what I mean? In his own way.
Right.
Where he is just he's letting Philip, who's fatherless, too.
Yeah.
That's an aspect of it we didn't really touch on. He runs
true.
from a single parent.
Yep.
So he's this male figure who's empowering him, and they're like, those are life lessons. Like, yes, he's gonna be emotionally traumatized. He watched this man die, but there is some things I think he's gonna learn from this experience that are gonna Butch is gonna leave a lasting impact on his life. So, it's really cool that they were portray that in a little bit of a couple day car ride. That relationship was built so quickly and so soundly. So I just I appreciate that work about it. And like you said, I think this movie holds up, but probably in a completely different context than what I liked about it as a kid. Like just appreciate it as a movie so much more now than I'm sure I just thought it was a fun little joyride for the kid back then.
Absolutely.
When I was watching it younger. So yeah, it's big time hold up movie here. All right, everybody. Well, we are wrapping up a very successful episode of Hello Movies, where we got to see a movie that held up really, really well.
You got to celebrate that. Anytime we do that, absolute celebration.
We are going to wrap this up, but we need one more thing from our listeners, and if they don't, we're going to kidnap their kids and show them a great time. And show them a great time.
No. I'm shutting it down. If you want to make this a perfect world, there you go.
Okay. All right. Well, that won't even come into question if you guys like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, leave us a 5-star review if you can, because if you do, we're going to read it live on air someday. Don't forget, you guys can also email us at carrayrob@gmail.com or reach out to us on Blue Sky at Car RayRob.
Absolutely. You can now also find us on Instagram and Facebook. By all means, go give us a like on both of those platforms and see all the fun things we are doing over there. If there is a comment section on whatever platform you're on, by all means, let us know what you thought of A Perfect World. And I'm going to go for the low-hanging fruit. Let us know what your favorite Clint Eastwood movie is. I think we'd all really... there's a lot of good ones to choose from,
$1 Million Baby.
Is that... Oh, that's going to be yours?
That's up there.
I don't know. This one might be up there for me now.
Yeah,
I really did enjoy
this
one. Absolutely. We will be back next week with a brand new month of Car RayRob, and we are kicking things off with my episode of Say Hello to My Little Film, where I am bringing something to Ray that I am so excited about.
I'm ready, because we've been on a good streak, so I know you're going to ruin it.
Oh, yep. It is time for me to ruin it. But then we will be back in 2 weeks with a brand new episode of A Copy of a Copy, where Ray and I have a special surprise, but we are going to be also watching the sci-fi epic Pacific Rim
Yeah.
and the direct-to-video remake Atlantic Rim.
I think we know why we did that, but we'll find out.
We're going to find out. We're going to
For
let you know
sure.
why we did that. But we will be back next month with a brand new episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend, where Ray and I are going to have we're kicking off summer. We're
Yes.
kicking off summer. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to be doing that by watching the 1987 beach classic comedy Back to the Beach.
Let's get sunburned.
Exactly, with Frankie Avalon and Annette Funicello. I remember really having a lot of fun with this movie.
So do I. Hope it holds up.
Absolutely. We're going to have to find out, and you are not going to want to miss it. But until then, this is Car RayRob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. Hello, movies. My old